their own purpose.
Can I ask a very stupid question? And again, you guys don't, I'm warning you ahead of time, you do not have to opine on this. But why was there the change? Because in my mind, here we go, this is going to be fun. This is why I do what I do. In my mind, the switch happened when women got the vote. Now, look, I'm not saying women shouldn't get the vote, but I think that... No, yeah, I've got to make that obvious. But look...
Sorry about it, just thinking.
No, literally, because you're watching suicide in front of you. No, but seriously, like if you look back at it, can we say that when we look at a map of America, let's take Australia out of it for a second, if all women vote, it's a blue wave. If all men vote, it's a red wave. Now, women, they cannot deny... I had this debate with an anthropologist one time, and I actually converted her on this. She was trying to make the point that, yes, Joel, women are more susceptible to socialism because they weren't given the educational opportunities. It was the men did it. So I was like, okay, all right. So men were attending the universities in the early, 1900s. Do you think that when they got the vote, that it left them more susceptible to ideas that made you think with your heart rather than your brain? She said, yes, I think that is exactly what's happened. And I'm like, well, then how do we overcome that, basically? And I do not have a good answer for that. I think that everyone deserves the right to vote because we're all imbued with the Spirit of God. I do think that women should pursue a trad life, but they should also have the option of being able to work in the workforce. So I'm not a complete tyrant, but at the same time, I can't help but see we had such an amazing society. At what point was it that it opened the door to a democratically voting country to actually go down this direction? That's the big thing going through my mind, and I can't help but see that. It was men that gave women the vote. But was it too early in the sense that women, they didn't quite understand at that point because, as they say, education was kept for them, and I don't see any reason why that's not true. Is that the thing? I don't know. What are your thoughts? And again, I'm spitballing. That's why I do this podcast. It's so that people can say, you know what, Joel, you're dead wrong on this. I think it's X, Y, Z. But I'm looking at the history of Australia and Western countries, and I'm just thinking, well, it's at this point where we tend to start adopting, all sorts of policies like no-fault divorce and socialist policies, and I'm just like, well, I mean, that's the only thing I can see.
I think men were pretty good at socialism too, in
yeah.
the socialist countries, and in the it's not exclusively the fault of women or because of the empowerment of women in the political and economic sphere. I think that women are, they were denied the vote for a long time. I mean, you can't say men gave women the vote because they probably should have had it all the time, or they would argue that it wasn't a great world back then for them because they did not have options. They had to be in there were very defined roles that they had to undertake. And we threw the baby out with the bathwater, as you often see with cultural change. And so now everyone can choose. But if you're a woman, there's this enormous pressure to be successful at bloody everything, and it's driving women to whine, a lot of whine. It is a problem. I'm joking, but that is actually a real issue, particularly in Ireland and Australia. The wine alcoholism in women is worse than men and beer, right. And I think that a lot of that does stem from the fact that women feel so much pressure to be everything. I've got to have a successful career, I've got to be a great mother, I've got to do it all. Likewise, it's very hard for men to say, well, I want to step back now and look after the kids for a while. I maybe want to put the career on pause and all that sort of thing. Jordan Peterson talks about this a lot, but it's the contraceptive pill that changed everything because it meant that, and so the traditional Catholic view would be, that's the issue, right? That we have to get back to respecting the fact that there is a difference between the genders, and the genders are different for good reasons. They're equal but different, and those reasons exist.
And gender roles.
Yeah, and the gender roles, it's this really dangerous turf, right? But it should be a choice to a large extent. But I think there is a leaning, politically and in roles, to nurturing, to softer. Rob McMullen, who I have on my show a lot, natural law expert. You should get him on the panel down here. He's
sure.
fantastic on this stuff about our
Is he in Sydney? Is he?
masculine and feminine sort of thing. Well, we're in Warrnambool tonight, aren't we?
Of course we are in Warrnambool.
Of course we're in Warrnambool.
That's right.
So, yeah, I'll get him to come from Brisbane down to Victoria and come on the panel.
Excellent.
But no, I mean, he talks about, the masculine and feminine and how that plays out in politics and plays out in economics and plays out in the roles that people choose to undertake. And the West, again, it's a Western value that there's a provision of choice, that men can choose now to stay at home if they so choose, and women can be the primary worker out there. But I think to deny the natural tendency that we have to these qualities of nurturing versus these qualities of going out and being productively kind of doing stuff, you can't deny that that's embedded in our genders.
I have my own view on this. So when I grew up, I knew this. I was taught this country was an Australian, it was always Australian Christian. What's your Australian Christian name? So the religion has been, the country's sort of secularized, right? So we don't associate Christianity in Australia anymore. For me, my beliefs, which is also my religion's beliefs, there are gender roles. So the man's supposed to go to work, win the bread, and the mother's at home nurturing the children. And that sort of changed, they brought, feminism, brought women's rights. Women wanted to go to the workforce. I think they did that just to get more taxes in from incomes of women.
Yeah.
So now they both have to work. And then now we're at a situation where it's inflation is so rampant, they've sort of forced women out in the workforce as well. Nobody in Australia can buy a house without, the husband and the wife going to work.
Yeah.
It's so far.
Like that.
It didn't used to be like that.
Yeah.
So that's why you got low birth rates, because women can't be mothers anymore. So the government wants to sell you the solution by bringing immigration rampant, which makes things worse. The whole thing's back to front, Nature tells us that women have to be mothers and the man has to go out there and work. If they can vote, sure, they can vote. But I also think where men out there running businesses, they should have, their vote count more if it's worth 5 votes,
All right, so that's the idea of Saudi Arabia. There's a half a vote for a woman.
Possibly.
3/5. Can we have 3/5?
Business owners.
Sorry, honey.
No, but look, the reason I'm laughing and the reason we're laughing, and it's silly, it's because we can't hold these discussions anymore, and that's what they've done. And this is the problem. It's classic Jordan Peterson again. If I can't risk offending you, then we can't get anywhere as a society.
Well, also, women's role in society, and coming back to that, the mothering role, we've diminished the importance of that role. And what impact is that having on children, right? They're not being raised, probably not getting the attention they should get. We're leaving them, So you've got people going out and working economically because they have to. You've got to have a 2-income family or you can't buy a house, as Mo just said.
Yeah.
That's not good. What happened to income splitting? I mean, that was something that was around, floated around as an idea in the 80s by John Howard, and he never brought it in.
Yeah.
Right? They never brought it in. Where you could take you could take the income of one parent, and you could split it between the two and pay the tax relative to those two people so both didn't have to be working. I mean, the way the tax system is set up is anti-family.
The whole system's anti-family.
And that's the socialist thing. That's the Marxism coming in, that anti-family.
Going back to the family thing, and why did I tie it to? Because that's a cracker point you made before about, in Stalinist Russia, it wasn't like a feminist nirvana where they all had the vote. It was still like early 1900s. That's a cracker point. But what my concern is going back to it. Australia is a massive umbrella of a culture, basically. We have an Australian culture. It's the dominant culture. When Australia was great, that's what we had. We all knew that when we got in them. That's what we came,
Lucky country, we all had it.
Exactly. Now, what my worry is the male socialists at the time, they actually did want to push women in, to get the vote for that reason, because they knew that they might be more susceptible to socialism and thinking with the heart over the mind. Yep. Now, that's not to say every single woman thinks with their mind second to their heart. It's not to say that at all. But I can't help but feel that there is a clear subversion of democracy that's happened in Australia, where they've attacked our institutions. And the best way to make women less happy was to actually make them enter the workforce. Because as you rightly pointed out, if you look at it statistically, you know, because I was from the construction industry. If you look at it statistically, my mum was one of 13. My dad was one of 7. You know, like the idea that you could have one income and raise all those kids, the moment they really helped, they didn't just give women the option to work. They pushed them into it in a big way. Like, if you want to get anywhere in the world, you have to go to university. You have to go and enter the workforce to come into your own power. They demonize men. And I can't help but feel that what that has resulted in is it's the destruction of the family unit. And then as a result, economically, as you said, then we need to get mass immigration in to make the economic numbers look right. Yep. Again, you're looking at a panel of 5 dudes. We will be getting a panel of women at some point and doing this exact topic about women and feminism, and I'm already lining the panel up. But these are the tough discussions we've got to have, and I'm really concerned about, you know, how we ended up where we are and how do we avoid what's happened in the US and the UK.
This is a very difficult topic. It's really, I mean, there's a lot of complexity here, and there's a big difference between, you know, feminism, whether it's first wave feminism, second wave feminism, third wave feminism, and it does seem like, you know, certain things have just gone way past some semblance of making sense. It's kind of like with racism, being non-racist was great, and then they went to anti-racism, right? There's that line from Batman: if you don't die the hero, you live long enough to become the villain. Yeah. And that's what's happened with some of these, you know, social movements. You know, and so it's kind of when it comes to you know, third wave feminism is completely off the rails, and you know, from my point of view. But yeah, it's a really hard and complicated subject to dissect these systems. You know, and they are. It's a whole, you know, system of belief, system of government.
Well, third wave feminism is about the demonization of men, and anti-racism is about the demonization of the white person, right? I mean, this is where the left has moved to, right? So we've got this identity politics has shifted from seeking equality to seeking domination.
Yeah, there's. I agree that it's gone from, yes, like you say, you know, equality to the reversal of oppression. It's not just stopping oppression, but the reversal of oppression. And
they never wanted equality. It was never about equality. That's just what everyone who listened to it took away